Hi, welcome to the Visionista podcast. I'm your host, Jessica East of Noir Marketing and PR. This podcast is for entrepreneurs where we talk about business and work-life balance. Okay, hi, this is Jessica East, the Visionista, and I am here with my friend Gerard, and we're going to talk about sales today.
Okay. Well, yes.
You know lots of things about
I do, but
and sales too. So one of the things we were kind of talking about this before, and I think it came up with somebody else this last week, is about how to find your best client, because if you are spending time, whether it's like marketing campaigns or phone calling or whatever, trying to reach people who aren't your best client, that's really not a good use of your time and your money. So how would you help someone find their ideal client?
Wow. Well, I think I see a lot of people just shotgun things, and they don't focus on niches.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you take a crawl through LinkedIn or whatever. Say, I help people market themselves better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, which people, which market?
All people.
It's like, I know all the people, all the markets, but you're not experts at anything. Like, I am specifically probably an expert in a couple of things. One, soccer tournaments. I could tell you that we've been doing this for 20 some years, and I could tell you exactly, how a soccer tournament event will ebb and flow, where you're going to find the teams, how to source the teams that have yet to form, those types of things. When people are going to apply, how much money they have, how much their homes are worth, just all sorts of demographic information. So I have expertise in that. I have expertise in, pardon?
I said you're not nosy at all. It's all research.
It is all research, but it's information that soccer tournaments need to know. So, just for example, you take a look at demographic areas, like who you're pulling from. And if you know that the average home value is $250,000, and then these people are griping about having to stay over Friday or Saturday morning, it's like, dude, they're snowing you. They got the money. These people are rich. Come on, versus, when you're pulling in from, say, more second tier city places like maybe Dayton, then these homes would be worth, a little bit less. So, it's all these things are very fascinating. I'm also an expert in retail services, those point of sale, those demo people that are in Kroger giving you, little samples of meat or whatever.
Peanut butter?
Fuel of every podcast everywhere. And so I'm an expert in that. I'm also an expert in equine therapy, of all things. And I'm also an expert in functional electrical stimulation, medical devices there. So
there's a fun story later for that one.
We can go into that later if you want. So in newspapers, I'm an expert in that as well. And also media production, video, audio editing. I'm an expert in, I won't go into this a whole lot of detail, but I'm also an expert in creating a mascot voice for your brand on Twitter and Instagram and all the socials. Did I ever tell you that?
I don't know that you did. I know that you kind of are a jack of all trades. So
yeah, we'll go over that in more detail offline. But, so some things need to stay somewhat anonymous, but anyway, buy my book.
Link.
Yeah. So did that kind of answer your question? I guess, where we were at was really niches and defining your niche. Yeah. And so if you're going to find your ideal client, you really have to know who you are. Mm-hmm. I get approached by folks all the time, and my two questions are, who are you and what do you want? And it's amazing how many people can't answer those two basic questions. And if you can't answer those two questions for yourself, you can't sell. Pardon?
I said there's a lot of people that can't answer that just for themselves personally.
Exactly. And so
their business.
But these are the people who, if they're going to look for a job, they're never going to find a job because they're not targeted. Mm-hmm. And they're never going to get me to help them because I need to know what you want, who you are. And then secondly, how to find your ideal client using those two questions. if you don't know them for yourself, you're just going to be scattered all over the place and running around. So I'm not sure how you can find your ideal client if you haven't really identified who you are and what you do best.
Mm-hmm. So that would be step one.
That would be definitely step one. Who are you? What do you want?
Mm-hmm.
You know, just, yeah, definitely.
And the reason I think that's so important is because we work with people who want to market to all the people or everyone, because that's one of the questions that we ask when we get started on a project, whether it's strategy or whether they say, hey, we want to do a video. Okay, who is going to be most interested in watching this video? What is the story that it's trying to tell? Trying to get to that point so we know what to put together for them. And they come in saying that they have a clear idea of who they want to reach and who they want to talk to. And then they kind of backpedal or second guess themselves and say, well, you know, but I don't want to rule anyone out. I don't want to not appeal to someone else. And so one thing that I think would be helpful to people when trying to market to people, sell to people, is it's not exclusionary. Like if I have a sandwich shop and I want to market to lunchtime workers who have an hour-long break before they have to go back to work. If I market specifically to those people, I'm not excluding other people who are maybe, you know, evening workers, but are running errands during the middle of the day, or students who would be coming in, you know, in between classes. So I think that would be something maybe for people to keep in mind. Having a target market that's inclusionary for one group doesn't mean that it's excluding all others. People will still see that ad. It will just help your ad have a greater effect for you and your organization if you're specifically speaking to one particular group.
Right. And I think a side effect is it's kind of a donut hole business theory I have. Just real quick, I was once upon a time, a very long time ago, the grocery stores used to like give away these donut holes because they're a waste product. And it's like, what do you do with all these donut holes? Nobody wants them. We're selling donuts.
Why am I paying money at Dunkin' for donut holes?
Because of
yes,
this.
I love you, girl. I own stock. Anyway.
Because of this. Once upon a time, when my son was very, very young, we used to do Saturday morning grocery shopping, and basically my job was to keep my son entertained, and my wife was to race through, because she's like a task focused. She's on a mission. She just does boom, 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 and it's done. Mm-hmm. And so she would just do the grocery shopping. And so our first stop was at the counter, for the bakery counter, where they had this whole bunch of donut holes, and we'd say, can we have our bag of donut holes, please? This was a Jerry's grocery store, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they would just hand us this big bag of donut holes, and then we would just march on and munch the donut holes as we were entertaining ourselves in the store. And keep in mind, this is like the early 80s, okay? So at some point, we went up to the counter and we say, we'd like a bag of donut holes. She goes, how many would you like? And I says, I don't know, just throw in a bunch. And she says there's like 50 cents a piece or whatever. And I go, no, they're free. She goes, well, no, somebody decided that we could. The whole thing behind this is, and then of course you have Timbits and Munchkins, which are branded donut holes, not just ordinary waste. So what somebody saw as waste, somebody else saw as a byproduct. Mm-hmm. And so back to your point about in your business is, yeah, your target market may be, X customer, mm-hmm. but as you target it, you'll have customers that come in and they'll ask for this and they'll ask for that. And it's like, what donut hole am I creating mm-hmm. in my business that I can rebrand, repackage, and sell? So we're always looking for donut holes. In fact, my son jokes that he's the vice president of donut hole revenue. Because he comes up with these wacky ideas for stuff that we're already doing. It's like, we're giving that away right now. We could package that, brand that, and sell it. And only because we're giving it away, simply because it doesn't meet our target market. And we've never really considered that. So what I would encourage folks to do is, instead of starting out with, we want to get everybody, mm-hmm. focus in on the narrow bits, and then say, well this, well this. Mm-hmm. Instead, just kind of go the other way around.
Yep.
Anyway.
No, I think
I think about in a pandemic. Nothing else to do.
Okay, so what would some sales strategies be for success? We've talked about, you know, finding your perfect client after figuring out who you are exactly. You know, trying to spend time and money marketing to the wrong people is obviously not going to be helpful. It's going to be a waste of your time and your money. So what would some solid sales strategies be? Just kind of generic, you know, that anybody could employ.
I'm not sure I have a solid answer. I'm not sure I have a quick answer for this, but I do have a solid one. A lot of things that we do at River Shark and our brands like Tourney Central, Shark Tooth Press, probably 90% of this stuff comes through referrals, to the point where we just don't have an outbound sales team. We just don't need it. So a lot of it comes through referrals. So I think my number one thing, and I know everybody wants this checklist and a magic silver bullet, do what you do best, do it for a very long time, take care of your customers as you go along, keep reaching back to folks, always make those calls like, hey, even customers who haven't been customers for a while, you just never know, because they, like some folks, 20 years been having conversations and just, hey, how you doing, checking in for 20 years after we cut our last invoice to them, and they'll call me out of the blue and say, oh, could you help me with this, could you help me with that, specifically like websites, video, how do I market my conference, things like that. So take care of the people you take care of. It really comes down. I don't like I say, I don't have a silver bullet, you know, checklist and a magic formula for outbound sales. All I know is do what you do best, do it for a very long time, be consistent, take care of the people. Sorry, that's not even very helpful.
I mean,
you're in for the long haul.
I think that's good because, you know, we're both in service-based industries. We provide professional services to other businesses and organizations. So going back to the sandwich shop, we're not selling sandwiches from a cart on Courthouse Square. So, you know, I figured out a long time ago that for what I do and for other people who do things similarly, having a personal rapport with people is the most helpful. Like I can put my name and my link and my business portfolio and links and YouTube and everything out there till the cows come home, and people might have questions or be interested or click a link, but to actually turn over, you know, a big project where they are trusting you to not screw it up. And
that's number one. That's number one on the checklist. Don't screw it up. I would change the verb out a little bit to more colloquialism, but
I mean,
definitely don't screw it up.
People want to make sure that they trust you and that you understand that this is a big deal to them. And unfortunately, or fortunately, the best way to do that for services is to have relationships with people. Even if they don't know you for long, you have to meet with them a couple of times, have some people vouch for you. It's kind of like the mob in that way, you know? So that's what I have found. We don't do too much advertising personally, honestly. For businesses that have a product to sell, then that's a little bit different because, you know, if my son just needed a new pair of tennis shoes, everything's closed, so we had to order them online. You know, we went with a brand name that he's owned before and really likes. I didn't need 5 people to tell me, oh, those are really good shoes. So we know what kind of shoes they are. When I'm hungry, I don't need somebody to tell me, oh, you should try this place, because, you know, if I want tacos, I'm going to go with somebody that's got good looking pictures and, you know, a decent price in my area. So I think there are some different ways to promote different businesses. So it kind of depends on who you are and who your target market is. But if you don't know, talking to someone like myself or Gerard is a good idea to help figure those things out.
Well, let's not get crazy about it.
I mean,
but back to your point though about, you know, even like selling a product. You know, how many times do you have these product companies wanting to build relationships with you? It's like, damn it, I just want a pair of shoes. I just want to buy them, and our relationship now is over. I've given you money, and
if they
thank you.
don't fit, I will return them.
Exactly, but it back to our original point about knowing who you are and what you want. You know, these customers know who they are and what they want. They have a kid with a need for a pair of shoes. They want a pair of shoes. They want it, you know, within a reasonable amount of time. Please just deliver it. What they don't want is 15 surveys, you know, and they don't want to build a relationship with you, and then they don't want your newsletter and all that. So just stop with that. So your ideal customer or your ideal client would then take the time to know that their customers, or you in this case, don't want all this extra stuff. They don't want a relationship. They just want one night stand.
Oh my!
Sorry, I didn't even go
like Thursday afternoon.
Am I blushing? Because I blush easily. Have you seen Normal People on Hulu?
Oh, I was gonna say, have I met a normal person?
No, well, no, you have not ever, because nobody's ever normal.
Oh,
Normal's a spectrum, you know. keep shifting.
That.
Normal People on Hulu. Anyhow, it was my reference to the blushing joke, but go on. I blush easily.
Go check that out later.
Just later.
No, I was just gonna.
You know, but don't have kids in the room when you do it.
Well, there's a lot of things you shouldn't have children in the room for.
Just
anyway,
be one of them.
That is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
No, what I was going to say about the companies that want to have a relationship and everything, when you just want to buy a pair of shoes, when you just want to order, you know, some makeup brushes or something, you know, after the whole global pandemic and people started shutting down, being concerned of shutting down, I lost count of how many junk emails I got from anyone I had ever ordered from anyone I had ever inquired to order from or follow a newsletter. And I haven't
heard from in years. You know,
some of them I was like, wait, what? Who is this?
Why do you have my information? And didn't I delete my account? You know, Mark Zuckerberg.
I think I had a Tuesday tip about this, honestly, a couple of weeks ago. Just the tip.
I think so, yeah.
All of that. But anyway, and it was all so dumb. It was pretty much everyone was saying the exact same thing, which was, we're all in this together, which, let's be honest, is not 100% true. And they were also saying that, like, they're upping their cleaning standards, and which, you know, I'm not a germaphobe, but at that point I'm like, wait a minute, were we not clean before? What
were you operating in filth before?
Right, like maybe you just shouldn't say anything, like quietly keep things clean and just shut the hell up about it. Like, but none of it really said anything helpful, you know. And to be clear, my idea of helpful would be if someone sent me an email and they said, you know what, if you have a credit card or an account with us and you've been displaced by this, please call this number because we'll work with you on payments. You know, we realize
which won't be a call center we've laid off and told you now that you won't be able to get through.
They can't tell
Please use our app.
You know, we understand that our stores all have to close in your area, and we're really sorry about that, but our warehouses are still fully stocked. Please enjoy free shipping from now until this date so that, you know, you can still get what you need from us, but you don't have to pay extra for shipping. Like, there were some things that could have been said that were true and were helpful to people. Instead, these people couldn't have had anybody like really strategically thinking about how to say anything, because it was all just a bunch of verbal vomit on, you know, feel good crap, which after about the third or fourth one, you're kind of like, all right, maybe we didn't need to say that. Here I can absolutely guarantee you this happened at a lot of these corporations, is some young bright intern or some old crusty man, whatever, is sitting in an office and tapped up exactly what they should have been saying. Then that went to the planning committee and the strategic committee, and it got all watered down into some mamby-pamby pablum crap that we all were reading. But I almost guarantee you that some talented copy editor, copywriter, or some creative genius in that corporation somewhere that has been underpaid and overworked
and has crafted the original memo that everybody should have said right away. I'd bet almost anything on that, but that's exactly the process. What do you think?
It probably depends on who. I would say there probably are instances where that happens, because death by committee. Well, anytime you have to do something with more than about 3 people giving their input, it will turn out to a lovely shade of muck when it's done, and it won't
vanilla
be
pablum
effective. It won't.
Have you eaten pablum ever? Is pablum part of your pablum?
Is that like that weird mystery meat that Cincinnati has?
No, that's Stark. That's Skyline chili. I hope it's not a client.
God, I'm glad my insurance is paid up. That was not me, Skyline. Sue him, not me. No, it's like,
no, it's
like breakfast. It looks.
Oh, you're talking about scrapple.
Maybe it's like a loaf kind of thing, and it's square. It looks like sausage, but it's not. It's
cornmeal mush.
It's not
fried up cornmeal mush, which is basically what do Italians call it? No, but pablum is like a rice cereal. Looks like baby food. It's really it's tasteless. It's colorless. It's odorless. It exists, but it doesn't really have any reason.
So it's better than starvation then? Like, do they feed that in prison?
Yeah, if you were starving and the only thing on the shelf was a box of pablum, you would eat that. But
maybe that's why I've never heard of that. I'm a foodie. I like taste.
Yeah, no, it's tasteless, odorless, colorless. It's just pablum. Just Google it. It's part of my childhood.
I feel like there's a story there. Like somebody somewhere, like, was this a failure where they were trying to make like Rice Krispies or something, and they came up with this, and they were like, whatever, we'll stick it in a box and see if anybody buys it?
I don't know. I think it's branded cheap baby food that probably came out of the Depression era, where everyone was canning tumbleweed and rabbits. Tumbleweed and rabbits. You can Google that up too. The Great Depression. I love the Great Depression. This is knee deep. What is it? Bread lines knee deep in wheat, and the last good time. Anyway, two books I'd recommend if the Great Depression is your thing. But anyway, you mentioned. Oh, thought you froze there. You mentioned something about we're not selling sandwiches on the square, and I'm going to challenge you.
No God.
So you could sell sandwiches on the square, no big deal. Somebody walks up, you say, well, "What do you want?" You know, roast beef, turkey, slapped together, boom, doom. You got a product, or you give people a show. And so if you're not looking at your product and you're thinking, "How can I make this a show?" I think you're missing out. On a huge thing. People come to your food wagon to be entertained. Yeah, I mean you got to deliver the food, but they come to your thing to be entertained. Do we have time for a story or not?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, okay. Well, we 2000. I think it was 2000 or 2002. Can't remember the year, but anyhow, there's a huge soccer show that if you're in the soccer business, you got to attend every year. It's in January. It used to be called the NSCAA. Us old farts still call it the NSCAA, but it's United Coaches or something. They changed their name, rebranded. Terrible rebranding. That's the long story. Anyway, so in Vegas, and the show was over. We were taking a red eye. Me and my partner at the time, we're taking a red eye back. And of course, when you have a red eye at 11 o'clock and you're in Vegas and the show ends at 4, what do? You try to find something to do because you're checked out of your hotel room, got nowhere else to really park your butt. You don't want to go to the airport in Vegas because there are airports that I love. I love airports, but the Vegas airport ain't one of them. So, because there's nothing to do and people are just looking to get out of town. They're all broke when they get out of town. So there's no slot machines on the gate area because nobody has any money. And so we're saying, what do we do? So between the Luxor and the Excalibur, there's this hallway, and you go down in there. It's just the McDonald's, the most obscene marquee lit McDonald's ever on the face of the planet. It's really, it's just everything American capitalism should never ever strive to be. But anyway, if you take a right, all these people coming this way with boxes of Krispy Kreme, they're like, okay, we got to check this out. And so as we go to through the tunnel there, we came like this huge mob that's pressed up against this glass. And it was probably 6 or 7 people deep, you know, pressed up against this glass. What the hell is going on? These people are like, so we made our way to the front of the glass there. And I kid you not, these people were watching these donuts float on this grease river. And then it came to a river, and it was like, and then it would take them and it would flip them. And it was like, oh, and then it would float like this. And it'd be like, woo, every time it flipped a line of donuts, people are like, yay. Dude, it's a Krispy Kreme donut factory. You're frying freaking fat, you know, or dough and fat. It's like, how unsexy could you possibly make a donut?
It depends
well,
on
you
how
made it
hungry you are.
And so you always, if you look at it, you say, I'm selling donuts, but how can I make this a show? And so it's a Krispy Kreme donut factory. So my shorthand for make it a show, try to figure out your product and how do you give people a show as you go on. Subway has figured this out because they had the line and you can tell the Subway artists who really understand the concept, they make this a show. I mean, they're going, you know, but the people who are just saying you're buying a sandwich, they're like, what do you want? What do you want? White or wheat? You know, cut the bread, move it along. But the people who getting in the vibe, they make this a show and they go with it. They're a carnival barker. And you love it. And you go back to the sandwich shop, you go back to the Subway shop for that one particular person who understands intimately that they're there that they're for entertainment, and they're there to give you not just a product, but an experience.
And so for a place like you, for a place like me, you know, if you're an HVAC company or an auto mechanic or something like that, I mean, you can't really, I mean, I guess you could, you know, juggle tire irons or something, but most people aren't allowed back in the bays. User experience, though, is key. Like, if you can't let people behind the scenes to see what's going on, giving them a really great user experience is going to keep them coming back.
Totally. And I think that's really a challenge, especially when you got a B2B business. It's like, how do you make nuts and bolts and things sexy? Well, you know, I used to work for a company that built medical equipment for people with paralysis. And I like to joke and I say, I used to sell exercise bikes to paralyzed people. And the whole thing is, oh, that's a tagline. Hello, that's a hook. Tell me more. And I could, you know, be very dull about it and say, we used to make medical equipment that was, you know, FDA certified with our 510K, and it's got this feature and that feature. It's like, no. Lead with, I used to sell exercise bikes to paralyzed people, and then stop. What? You got to tell me more about this stuff. Or I used to, you know, when we were in the equine industry, and you could start off with saying I made sold stimulators for horses, and, you know, took care of back pain and stocking up and all that stuff. Or you could sell physical devices or physical therapy devices for horses. People like, and then stop. And in their mind, they're like, physical therapists, and then they know about the physical therapist, and they're trying to fit their horse into this caricature of this person manipulating body parts, and it ain't working in their mind. So they got to have a question. They're like, okay, how the hell do you do that? You know, how the hell do you sell exercise bikes for paralyzed people? This can't be. Paralyzed people can't pedal an exercise bike. It's like, yes, they can, and here's how. And so now you got them hooked. But obviously, it's, you know, you can sell this story like, you know, in a job interview. You can sell them on a podcast, you know, 30 years down the line. But it goes really identify your customer. Are they, and what do they want? It's like, well, they want to feel young again. They want to feel sexy. They want to feel desirable. They don't want their withered limbs. They want to get hard, stay hard, which was a marketing slogan nobody bought at the company. It was just out there, but I was like, get hard, stay hard. I had t-shirts that said get hard, stay hard. I tell you what, our target market love that, because our target market is always some 18 to 30-year-old dude who took a backflip off of a diving board somewhere, landed in the shallow end of a pool to impress a girl. Seriously. And you know what? Their number one concern is I need a more active sex life. I need to look good. Get hard, stay hard. I mean, we're talking about muscles, but come on, you know, we all both know. But it's really identifying your target market, and that was our target market right there. You appeal to their because everyone wants to feel sexy and desirable and look good. nobody wants to be, you know, seen as a pathetic, you know, loser in a wheelchair. Mm-hmm. And the whole you know, SCI community has a ton of slurs that they use for themselves. I'm not going to because I'm not a member, but seriously, the way they refer to themselves, you know, as they were talking, if you listened, you began to understand what their needs were, and their needs really were get hard, stay hard, and we had the product to do it, and we had the story. In fact, I don't even want to throw around name dropping and all that stuff, but I got Christopher Reeve to endorse our product, the Stim Master, as the care for the cure. No, he died. I left the company. It doesn't matter. But anyway, it was.
I mean, that's still cool.
I got to meet him a couple times. I got to meet Dana a couple times. His son Will. I mean, they're just really down to earth, upstate New York, just down to earth folks. Yelled at him once over the phone on the Saturday morning. Just screaming, just a big screaming match because he thought the product didn't work. I told him he was a lazy bum, and who was that? That was Christopher Reeve.
You told Superman he was a lazy bum.
I did, and I ended up, and get this, I ended up upselling a $7,000 ab stimulator. You've seen these ab belts on TV.
Yeah.
Well, we made a product that really, really did work. And what happened was, if you're in a wheelchair, you know, you're fitted. But if you don't exercise, and you don't exercise your muscles, and you really exercise, not just range of motion, but if you don't exercise your muscles, what happens is in a wheelchair you start to slump like this, because your abdominals, I don't mean to, you know, I stood up, my abdominals, my paraspinals, which are pathetic. They tend to atrophy, and when they atrophy, you tend to something like this, and so the chair no longer fits you, and then so you're unable to sustain, you know, oxygen and all that stuff. What happened was he was not getting on the bike every day. He needed to do this every day, but he was directing a movie, and he says, "You don't understand. I'm directing this movie." You know, it's like, you don't understand. If you don't do this stuff every day, you're going to be dead. And so if you're dead, you cannot direct a movie, Chris. You just can't do it. So one thing has to go before the other. And I says, I tell you what, here's what's happening with you, you know, physically. And I explained the neck and the paraspinals and all that. And I says, I'll tell you what, I'm going to send you this $7,000 stimulator. Didn't tell my boss. Mm-hmm. I was risking this. And I says, if it works,
out of the bag now.
Yeah, well, that's all about. He already knows, but he got the check later. And I says, I tell you what, I'm going to send you this stimulator. I'm tell you how to use it. You get yourself a script from your doctor, and use it every day for 30 days. If it does the job, send me a check. If it doesn't, don't. Day 31, we got a check. So basically, these ab belts that you see on TV, they don't work, but this device really did. And it built up the paraspinals and the abdominals. And he was sitting higher in the chair. All of a sudden, his headrest fit him again, and the bike was fitting him, and he was able to get on and do it for, 7 seconds every day, until 7 seconds and 8 seconds and 9 seconds, and eventually he was doing it for 10 minutes a day, which is pretty much all he needed to maintain muscle mass. And he couldn't breathe without a vent, but at least he was able to, get his lungs expanding, and the vent didn't have to work so hard expanding his lungs. It's all sorts of medical stuff. If you're interested, we can link below, as they say. So it's fascinating stuff. I don't even know why we got on that tangent, but it seemed important.
Because you have really good stories, and well, but I think this illustrates getting to know your clients and what they're really after. And being able to help them solve their problem.
Tell a story. I mean, that's where we're at with the food wagon and the sandwich shop. You're never just selling a sandwich on the square. You're selling a story. You're selling an experience, making an experience. Krispy Kreme Donut Factory, your product. So I know it's harder for B2B, but figure out the story. People aren't buying your product; they're buying the solution that your product creates or solves. That's what they're doing. Like bone screws, how do you sell bone screws? You'll never see these bone screws, and you don't ever want to have them, but it makes you stand up straighter. It solves that problem. It solves, the spinal problem. So you market to doctors, and what are doctors wanting? Doctors are wanting to solve a solution of no back pain and being able to stand up to their patients. And so that's a story that they're selling. They're not selling bone screws. It could be bone screws, zip ties, whatever gets you there, and whatever you're selling at the time. But you sell the solution, not the product. Especially B2B, where your HVAC stuff. Who thinks about HVAC? What solution are you?
Usually nobody until it's broken. And so you're either too hot in the summer or too cold in the winter.
No kidding there. So anyway, a story. You're never selling sandwiches. You're selling an experience.
Cool. So if you had one final thought to leave with people about sales, what would that thought be?
Don't give up. It's the two most important skills, and they're really super hard to learn, is patience and tenacity. And I keep telling all my 20-some friends, more or other, I collect these 20, 30-year-old some friends. That's not a bad.
You have a menagerie in the backyard.
Really, it's really true. But I guess I could add a third one is befriend a range of people.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can learn. I have learned so much from 13-year-olds on TikTok. Like
not
Charlie.
in a creepy way.
No, God, no. No, am I blushing again? No, but not in a creepy way.
My daughter's had someone, above about 18 trying to regularly chat with them on TikTok. I would probably put the kibosh on that.
There are a lot of creepy 50-year-old men out there on TikTok, and and they give us old folks a bad name, something terrible. But and it's really hard. It's super hard, knowing that in the back of your mind. It's really hard to connect with younger people. On all my fingers here, younger people, women of almost any age on any social platform, who are like super smart and super talented. They've got these great ideas, but how do you break through without saying, oh, this guy's a 50-year-old creep? I'm not. I'm just interested in people. And you learn, I've learned a lot from 90-some-year-old, 100-year-old people. I've learned a lot from 12, 13-year-olds on TikTok, what they're doing with their marketing stuff. I know Gen Z, Gen Y, they get a ton of gaff from us, boomer types. And it's like, dude, you just open your mind to this stuff, and don't just stick with one friend group through your entire life, because you're getting older, they're getting older, and you only see a certain perspective. You got to open that up. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing when you just relax your mind and just watch things, objectively without judgment. Nothing is good or bad. You just watch it without judgment. It's amazing how much you learn. It's amazing how much you discover you don't know, even if you're older. And if the older you get, the older I get, anyway, the less I seem to know about what I was so certain of, so many years ago. So that's one thing. But the other is really patience and tenacity. Anything worth having will come over time. Mm-hmm. And just be tenacious about something. Any idiot can throw up one blog post. Any idiot can make a video. Any idiot can do one of something, two of something, three of something. What are you doing on day 732? Yeah. Because there is no plateau. People talk about arriving someplace and I've made it. What made what? Dude, there's tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Keeps in this petty pace from day to day. Get an English degree. It will enrich your life, but also learn how to hang drywall, because life needs a lot of drywall. No, but seriously, it's patience, tenacity, and just expand your friend group every chance you get.
I like it.
Only a small percentage of people will think this is good advice. Most people are looking for this, and this doesn't exist.
All right.
But I'll sell it to you if you want.
Well, thank you, G.
I don't know how I got to be a sales expert.
I don't know. I decided one day. There you go.
I learned something new about myself. I always thought I was like into modeling, and I was, the
modeling. That's probably not a show that I'm going to host on this podcast. But anyway,
all right, take us out.
That is a perfect place to end. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. This has been the Visionista.